Hi, my name's Nayeli Torres. I'm a senior at Pioneer High School. My race or ethnicity is Mexican American.
I'm Emiliano Arellano. I'm in 12th grade, a senior, and I'm Hispanic.
My name is Hennessy Evelise Victoria. I'm in the 12th grade. My ethnicities are Ecuadorian, Colombian, Dominican, and Puerto Rican. My race is majority black, part indigenous, and part white.
My name is Satya Walker Levine. I'm a senior at Pioneer. I am Native American, Tunisian, French, Swedish, and a lot of European on my mom's side.
I've certainly been judged, or just basically my appearance. There was this event I had in culinary when I took it my sophomore year, being like a waiter or waitress for a certain event. And it was mainly older people. They were really discriminating. Like, they really did not want me to serve them. They just looked at you so differently.
Yeah, actually. So back when I used to work at Safeway, this is one of the main reasons why I quit. One day I was bagging their stuff, and they're like, "Oh, I don't want them bagging it." The cashier that was working later pulled me aside and was like, "Yo," they were saying some pretty bad stuff about you. How my spot should be reserved for a white person.
Yes, it definitely affects me and other people that are my minority friends. I was at work and there was this customer who ended up asking me like, "Oh, is your hair real?" And I was like, that's an interesting question to ask because the assumption is, or like the indication is that my hair is not real. And I went on to say, yes, it is real. She said, oh, because girls like you normally wear wigs. And to that, I just stayed silent.
I'd like to think no, but there probably was an instance where I was not taken because of the color of my skin. I have a friend around campus, and they're my close friend, and a lot of people like to say we look alike or we look like siblings because we're both brown and we both have black hair. Both of us have agreed on multiple occasions, and others have even agreed with us, that we don't look like siblings. And we both feel that it's definitely very racially motivated just because we're brown. We've both had an instance where we had somebody basically call us school shooters because we were dressed in black and we were darker toned than everybody else.
Sure, yeah, it could be sometimes linked in with racial profiling, stereotypical stuff. I'm not gonna lie, I should be accused of that too, because definitely at Safeway, there's some really sketchy people that just come in fully just tatted in the worst clothing ever.
When you have police, they look for those certain traits for when they're racially profiling. Like they chose those certain characteristics of either being brown or just looking like a thug or being lazy or known to smoke or known to drink or something like that as an excuse that, oh, we can target this on this certain person because they do these couple things that some people who are incarcerated or some people who are bad people have those traits,
I think anywhere and all the time people can be racially looked at or stuff like that, but I don't know. I feel like when it comes to certain people's tradition or something like that, I feel like they're most judged there.
If you look like a gangbanger, they're gonna think you're a gangbanger, especially if you're all tatted up and you wear you're sagging and everything. You're definitely gonna get profiled. On their line of work, they're probably more scared of you than you are of them because they have no idea what you're gonna do. And especially if you look like that, they might be thinking, "Oh, he's definitely carrying a gun."
People of color, people of darker skin, or minorities, people of certain ethnicities, that definitely plays a huge role in whoever they find or think is guilty.
I would definitely have to say race, whether someone's white or black, whether their clothing, whether they're wearing a hoodie or street clothing, or they're wearing nice clothing. I definitely think that's a telltale difference. Whether they have their living situation, whether they live at home or they're on the streets, or they have an okay apartment, a living situation, I feel is also what police look for. And just how the person is acting overall, if they're acting like they're high or if they're acting like they're drunk or on something.
Honestly, Yeah, racial profiling is starting to become little but nothing. It's only like a certain people that, yeah, we do need to weed out of the force.
Yes, I feel like it is because when you have less colored people in an institution where they're expected to be, and you have the people who are not expected to be in that institution, I feel like something that the police are doing is starting to get better, or there's just people having their lives get better and being able to move on from a situation better and not be incarcerated because they know people that have been incarcerated in their lives and know how crappy that is.
I don't think so. I feel like there are other statistics you can look at that tell you the complete opposite. And I think there's more that can tell you the complete opposite. If that makes sense.
So you think racial profiling still is very much a big issue?
Yeah. It hasn't gone away. Like we've raised awareness for it, but it's still an issue. Yeah.
That, not a good move.
You don't think it helped?
Honestly, not. I feel like they would have like taken it up to the government. A lot of people were a lot more on edge over, POCs just because of that.
Let's say, like, not just specifically the BLM protests, that's just an example, just protests in general or movements. Do you think this could be a potential solution to...
Sometimes. Not all protests are good because obviously they end up terrible. It just goes to show like the Proud Boy protest, obviously stopped by law enforcement. BLM protests were stopped by law enforcement. There's some protests that are like actually decent, where I'd be like, all right, you know what, that makes a lot more sense. There's not a lot of like destruction of property and such like that.
What do you think needs to change in order for
Take it up with the
protests and
government.
movements?
Just take it up with the government. Don't be going and ransacking random stores because I don't know. You think it's doing a change because it's really not.
On the positive side, it's given more of a voice to minorities and people who need and deserve justice, because there are a lot of people out there who get killed or who are wrongly incarcerated because they've had like racial profiling, and it be completely wrong. And then for the negative aspect, I feel like it also kind of helped to further incarcerate others because they became too violent with the protest. But there's an extent of passionate and just aggression, and some people took it to that aggression, which in some cases made like the movement not as powerful as it should be.
I feel like what it's done the most is bring awareness. With awareness, people have learned or are willing to learn more or willing to listen more or to actually listen to people's experience, like right now. But I feel like the biggest thing is awareness.
I mean, there's not really like a solution to it, except like, it's kind of like in our genes are kind of like programmed already to like be familiar with something, or like if you experience something with someone, just like think and wait before you speak or like say anything, pretty much, because that's pretty much all you can do. You can't really like, it's like your first instinct, you're not going to be like this and that. You can only develop through time.
Just give a better image. Especially with gangbangers, they really give off that image. They really do, especially because they're pretty open on the media, and like that goes for anybody too, not just specifically one type of person.
But what about the people who are just normal everyday people?
Everyday people, you really can't do anything.
There's nothing you can do. You should. That's not a question that you ask to somebody who's prone to racial profiling. That's something you would ask to the person who is racially profiling. What can you do to not racially profile? That is what is the other way around, yeah.
I think that the precautions that people should take is knowing their rights, knowing what to do when they're having to deal with a cop. Like, I hate to say that, but people should know how to act, because there are certain things that you do and don't do. And people should know that, so people know how to further protect themselves. And like I said before, knowing your rights is a very big thing, because a lot of people get like messed over because they don't know their rights, and they don't know what they can or can't do with cops. People should know their rights, and people should know how to act or be around a cop. And I think there should just be a level of respect that you show when you're dealing with a cop situation as much as you can, you know, because there are some situations where it does become really aggressive because the cop is also being aggressive.
I think pretty much we personally have to do it ourselves. Like we can do so much to prevent people from not doing those kinds of things and not thinking that way, but it personally just takes that individual person to like stop thinking that way or think twice before they say something, or just, you know, just give that person a chance to prove themselves or show their actions instead of like putting them in a profile because you've seen someone else do it.
Time. It just needs time. No, I mean, going back, way back to like the 1960s, you know, Jim Crow laws got put to the end, but obviously there's still been like racial stuff going on, and like even to like not even like 2010, it was still going on. And now like sure there's stuff being done about it, but it's all with time. But honestly, it just goes down to schools and how we teach them. Don't shove it down their throat, because then they'll hate it more, but just slightly open and open and open.
Maybe diversity training. I feel like that's something that could take a very, like, it can change the way people look at things. Diversity training, I feel like, not just with racial profiling, but with people with disabilities, people with different habits, different people in general. Yeah. Aside from diversity training, maybe providing safer spaces for minority students. I feel like there's not many of that in all of America.
All institutions should understand what the 4 eyes of oppression are. I feel like after I learned the 4 different types of oppression, I was starting to see it way more in my life, and I was starting to identify it way more and realizing what type of oppression it is. And I feel like others should know that so they can be able to tell it in the workplace. I feel like all people should know all those types of oppression, and there should be like anonymous places where they can submit like how they feel or what's going on in their workplace without feeling like, oh, I'm scared because if I tell out, like, I'm gonna get in trouble.
You think they should provide more resources for minorities to get their voice out there?
More resources for minorities to get their voice out there, understanding what types of oppression there are and how to be able to stop it, or just identifying it. I feel like identifying it is just, it's hard to identify when you don't know the types of oppression, because I didn't even know it, and once I did, I was like, oh my god, like I've had so many different types of oppression either pushed on by myself, by others, by the institutions I'm at, by these ideologies that people have of just, oh, I'm better because I'm da-da-da race than you know?
Can you name those 4 eyes? So
Yeah,
like
of course. So there's ideological oppression, internalized oppression, there is interpersonal oppression, and institutional oppression.
The social justice, well, like the justice system in general. I think anywhere. I feel like it's American culture in a way. It's a part of every environment. I feel like anyone can, even a minority can tell you, well, yeah, I was raised to think that this other minority group is bad.
I feel like there should just be more understanding with everybody's feelings instead of just looking at somebody and being like, oh, they don't matter because I'm not in their head and I don't understand what their life is like because I only have my life going on. I feel like we shouldn't be in a society where we're so selfish. We should be thinking about others. We should be thinking about our community. We should be thinking about our environment. Like, we shouldn't just be thinking about ourselves.